位はおのテスト。
Hello everybody, welcome back to JoJo's Overdrive, and today we will be doing a part 3 stand tier list. We're planning to do pretty much every single part's tier list, so make sure you subscribe so YouTube actually notifies you when we put those up. Leave a like and comment down below what your favorite stand is, because part 3 has some actual like really good hidden gems, and we're gonna talk about it. Speaking of really good stands, I like Anubis a lot. Anubis is good.
And we got the GOAT fighting game character, Dark Polnareff.
Dark Polnareff is also sometimes called Black Polnareff. Do not pay attention to how his skin darkens in game. That has nothing to do with anything. Please do not read into it. But overall, it's just really I believe this is like the first stand that's like an object, I think. Is it? No, well, we technically have we have strength or whatever, the boat.
Forever, yeah, with the boat.
But this is like the first
so
one where
big.
that's the first one where it's like literally just an object and there's no user to it. It's just like a standalone thing. And I think that already opens up the whole world of stands to just everything. Because suddenly, with the introduction of Anubis, it's like, oh, you don't even need a user. All the rules are thrown out the window. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, and also 2 stands to a user. You can just give it. Polnareff gets it.
Yeah, I love the shaving part where it's introduced, where they're getting a shave in the barbershop.
Yes. And he takes out the sword and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact, this fight goes between 3 different users. It's a very entertaining part. I would put Anubis in A tier. That's what I would do.
I can agree with that. I think he's low in A tier. But it's a really cool concept having it as an object. But I
also
agree.
think dual wielding Silver Chariot is just too cool to not put any lower than A.
Totally, yeah. And I love Polnareff, so it's like more arcs with him featured is like amazing.
Okay, next up we have, oh my god, which one? This is not the other one
This
besides
is Darby's.
Osiris.
This is the one where the chips, where he puts the I believe.
This is the one where he turns people into. He turns people into. The chips one.
Oh no, I was wrong. This is the doll one.
This is the doll one, and it also
Yes.
reads your souls. It's the objectively, like, ability wise, objectively better Osiris.
Better
I
one.
just can't remember what the name is.
Atom.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now.
I think I really like this because the whole Darby the player arc is like really fun, and it's super cool that he did a video game based arc literally in the late 80s.
He games, and that's like it's so cool. And like it's like they're in the middle of ancient Egypt, and so you expect like all these like regular like ancient Egypt themes. Like we just talked about, Anubis is pretty. He looks like Anubis. There's nothing, and he uses like a sword. But then suddenly, oh, there's a stand. It has to do with he games. That's like what he does. It's like, wow. And
I like how it's like the younger brother, because like the older brother plays like the more mature traditional games, and then the younger brother is playing just gaming.
Absolutely. The infamous yes and no also came out of this. So that's I already am a fan of this.
And of course I love that Joseph is the one that ends up playing the game instead of Jotaro, because he's played more than him.
Yeah, arc wise, that's like a great like final moment. I like how
it's so good.
The ability is specific enough to where like it can answer any yes/no question, but it doesn't. It's not like broken where it like answers any question about a person. It's like a good balance.
The dolls are also really cool compared to like the chips, because the chips is just a face and a chip, but this is like way more just like detailed and stuff, and you got the Kakyoin doll and stuff.
I would put Atom at top of B.
I agree. That's what totally top of B. I don't think it quite breaks into A, just because again it's very similar to the other brothers and Osiris. And yeah, the next one we have up is Bastet, which is Mariah's, which I think while the actual like physical stand is pretty forgettable, but that arc is extremely funny.
If we're talking, we're not doing an arc review here. We're doing how we feel about like the stands themselves.
This stand, I'm pretty on it. It's cool in All Star Battle R how they integrate the stand.
Yeah, how they make it on the ground.
For how forgettable it is, but you can like throw it on the ground. But
the comedic factor of an electrical socket being on a rock, like out of context, is like pretty funny. But honestly, at this point in the series, that's not like too like wild.
Not
That's
really
pretty
weird or
like,
anything.
okay,
Yeah,
whatever. I would put Bastet in D tier, honestly.
yeah,
It's
D
kind of lame.
D tier only because I think it gets saved by how it's used, but it's super forgettable. If you ask most people who saw part 3, they would not be being like, yeah, Bastet's my favorite stand.
And of course, I believe literally Metallica just does it better. Like in part 5, it does the whole magnetism thing, but is more creative with it and is cooler. So
yeah,
Bastet goes in D tier. Up next, we have Cream, which I think would be our first S tier. That's
for me. It's A tier.
Love his design and his ability.
I do love Cream.
It's so good and it's so powerful that right after getting done with Darby Jr. or whatever, you're kind of like, okay, we can come to expect like what's about to happen, and then you just hit with this, bam, everyone's dead, bam, Iggy's dead, bam. It's
so cool. It's cool because it's like one of the rare moments in the series where it's like a villain like purely kills people and like gets away with it. From the main cast, you got Avdol and Iggy dead.
Yeah.
Avdol's instant, which is crazy. Like he's just gone.
Cream represents this like basically the final boss before the actual final boss. It's like it's so like scary. It's so cool. I would put it in S tier. I love Cream a lot.
I can see. I would argue A tier. I think, in the grand scheme of things, it's cool, but yeah, I don't know. I'll let you put it in S tier.
I'll put it in S.
I would put it at the top of A.
If
we'll see later.
We'll see how things get like if the tiers get bloated and we feel like we need to rearrange.
Yeah.
Up next we have Dark Blue Moon, which I mean the ability is already pretty vague. It's just like he's good in the water, I guess.
It's so boring.
Suffers super hard from early stand syndrome. I think there's fun moments in the arc, but the stand itself, even design-wise, is kind of boring. It doesn't really. It's not. I
legitimately think this is like F tier.
I would put this in F tier. Yeah, at least Bastet had like visually, it's like it's an electrical socket. That's fun and creative. This is just generic creature from the Black Lagoon. Wow. Okay. It doesn't. And again, I could not tell you its ability if I tried. It's not like later stands or as its defined ability. It's just early part 3. Generally,
it's just really good in the water.
That's it. It's like, okay. There's not much to it. Dark Blue Moon. Get out of here.
I mean, one thing in that arc is I like the juxtaposition of the Forever boat and also Dark Blue Moon.
There's a mini like water arc that we have. Like there's there's some nice cohesion there, but again, that doesn't change my opinion on the stand itself.
No, totally agree. F tier. Next is a fun one, Death 13.
Oh, classic.
I love this one.
Design-wise, super good.
I am going to just say in the anime it's done even better just because you can have the full like dream sequences and stuff.
And especially with the colors and everything in the anime it does that really, really well to make the dream sequences seem even more like weird and bizarre. Haha. It's just, and this is our first like example in JoJo basically where a stand user is like not who you'd expect to have a stand.
Yes.
Everyone else before this point has been like a normal person.
I would argue the orangutan too.
Orangutan, yeah, but I mean like human wise, it's like orangutan.
You would not expect a baby ever. Orangutan's like believable at least because you could be like, oh, it's like not really controlled by it or something.
Yeah, an orangutan is an actual like in and of itself is a pretty big threat. They're super strong already, but physically, a baby is not imposing whatsoever. The user itself is like not threatening in the slightest. Everyone else, you could argue that like the user themselves can function on their own. Death 13 is the first one where the stand has to hard carry the user essentially.
Yeah, I agree. So I think Death 13 goes in A tier.
I think bottom of A. That's what I say under. I say under Anubis. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to mention for this video, we're not including Holly's stand or Jonathan's stand because Jonathan's stand's like basically the exact same as her in purple, and Holly's stand does not do anything.
Yeah, so it's very hard to rank those.
It's really yeah.
Anyways, next up is Ebony Devil, which, I mean, it's like, again, it kind of suffers from early part 3 where it's a doll. And like that's it, but at least I will say it comes with the cool distinction of the user has to in some way not die, but like feel pain or something. It's kind of vague again because early part 3, but I do think it shouldn't belong in F, but I do think like D tier is Ebony Devil. I don't think there's much.
It's a remote stand, which makes it a little more interesting early on.
Yeah,
but this is one of the stands where like, if you were adapting this into something that you didn't have like infinite episodes to do it, this would be like the first one cut.
Yeah, nobody remembers Devo.
No one remembers. No one remembers it at all. I personally think F tier. Honestly,
I'm gonna put it at bottom of D just because I think the idea itself is like has some semblance of like uniqueness to it that it doesn't. Completely
automatic,
fall flat.
I guess.
And this is the first stand where the user like the trigger activation isn't like constant. Pretty much, it's like it has to actually do something in order to activate. So I think below Bastet but above Dark Blue Moon in D tier. That's what I would put it at.
Okay.
All right. Emperor. It's a gun, and that's cool.
It's just cool to have like you know, you got a cowboy with it. Whole Horse is a likable character. He comes back again. He's obviously in Crazy Diamonds right now.
I think Emperor is simple in a good way, but could do with a bit more balancing. I'd say C tier. I'd say exactly in the middle.
Wow, I'd say high B tier for me.
I wouldn't say high B tier. I just think that I think
Araki uses it in a lot of creative ways.
I think it's a bit too overpowered for this point in the story, and it doesn't get like used that much because it's like a bullet that can be precisely maneuvered at past the speed of light practically. It's like because it even dodges like Silver Chariot and everything. It's hard to balance that, and it just feels like But
what about the moment where he shoots in the pipe and then it ends up shooting himself? That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny, but it's not like that doesn't change my opinion of the stand in the slightest. And also, again, that also brings the question: why didn't he just redirect the bullets to move out of his face? That just makes the stand seem like it just suddenly got weaker for no reason. See how I think there's a bit too much. I needed it as second draft. That's what I'm saying. I think Sex Pistols just is a better version of it. That's
I totally agree with that. I'll concede high of C tier.
That's not. No, I agree. High C tier, but I still think C tier. Next up, we just had the Emperor, and now we have the Empress, which are surprisingly, I don't think
very different.
Like. I don't think their abilities have anything to do with each other. Yeah. Nope. This is the little parasite or whatever that hooks onto Joseph.
Yep.
I think it's okay. I think
it's fun.
It leads into some fun moments of Joseph, but I think if it was like if
outside of the arc, if it wasn't with Joseph and it was with any other character, it wouldn't be like so boring.
Yeah.
It was basically just created to give Joseph his own little stand battle because at that point he hadn't had anything, I love. But again, on its own, it's cool. But like a lot of stands in the middle part of part 3, very forgettable.
Yes.
And just not interesting. I think D tier.
I was gonna put it in the like exact same kind of area. I was leaning low D, maybe high D, maybe low C, but I'm gonna put it in high D for now and see how the tiers look at the end, and we'll shift things around a bit. All right, next up we have, I believe it's called, is this Geb? I believe
this is Geb. Yep.
Yeah, from Endul's stand.
I love this stand. I will fight.
I will fight for this one. I think again, this is a simple stand done correctly.
This is an amazing way to introduce the Egypt arc.
Absolutely. This is what Dark Blue Moon should have been. It's a water-based ability, but it has enough parameters to make it so that there's a clear win and lose condition for the user, but there's enough flexibility of it just being water so that like it can do what it wants. Because like Endul like uses sound or whatever to kind of locate targets, it makes the fight much more interesting than if it was just, oh, he shoots water at you. Like if it was earlier in the part, I believe it was literally just water.
Also, one really cool thing about it that separates it from Dark Blue Moon is that you have it's a water-based stand in the middle of a desert for miles and miles and miles. Too, which is really cool. You have a blind stand user too.
There's so much going for this. Yeah,
I think honestly, for me, top of A tier. Like
I
top
was gonna agree. Top of A tier. I was gonna say above Anubis, below Cream. That's. I agree. Very
totally,
good.
I love it. And again, used cool in the video games too.
Yeah. Got Kakyoin out of like half the part.
Yeah,
that's a big moment. That was like a big like, oh shoot, we're really getting into things
anytime
now.
A stand is able to actually like farm or kill a main member, it's like
it
that's
gets
like
points for me.
It gets points for that, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Hanged Man, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, I like Hangman too.
I think overall everything it does is good. I don't really have any qualms about it. I don't think it does anything like outstandingly amazingly, but I think it does everything it wants to do good. The design is
It
very
totally
good.
feels like a stand that would be in something like part 5 instead of part 3.
Well, it's almost like Man in the Mirror.
It's almost like Man in the Mirror, but
5.
do you know what I mean? Where it has these more specific things where instead of it's not just a punch ghost.
Yeah, I totally get it, and even it even has like a little sword attached to it, just for fun, just to stab people. The explanation for its ability being like it's a stand made of light that like shoots between mirrors instead of just a supernatural like, oh, he's in the mirror. Like Araki kind of like went back later for Man in the Mirror and just said, here's what that would look like if I literally just made it he was inside the mirror. But I like that how Hanged Man it gives like an explanation to it rather than it just being purely supernatural.
Yeah.
I
think middle of B tier. Below the Darby Brothers stand.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think Atum has like more of a unique ability that I will give it the edge. Next up we have Hermit Purple, which is
really like Hermit Purple.
It's Hamon, but it's like cooler Hamon because we got the visual like vines and everything, and it's like whenever someone thinks of like a utility stand, this is the first thing
utility stand.
Ultimate utility stand.
Besides like Paisley Park in part 8, but this is like
absolutely.
one of the ones that would be most useful to an actual like average person because having the like TV ability and stuff, which it's our intro, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys.
I love it. I think bottom of A personally. I think it's used really well. You have offensive, defensive abilities on it. It's just really, really helpful.
Yeah, it's just very cool. It's also the only like set of the main cast that isn't a punch ghost, essentially. The Fool kind of like wavers the line, and of course Hierophant Green isn't literally a punch ghost, but in terms of design and functionality, they all are pretty similar, except for Hermit Purple, which I think is very nice to kind of diversify the main cast and let Joseph stand apart because he was from a different part, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Also, the whole kind of Araki being like he's always kind of had Hermit Purple. It's just like the manifestation of Hamon.
Yes, I love the
cool
part where he
detail.
says like if they time traveled, they would
see...
be able to see Hermit Purple.
Yeah, but he just hadn't like mastered over it or whatever. Yeah. Okay, I will put this bottom of A tier because I think that is a perfect place for it. All right, up next we have Hierophant Green, famous for his Emerald Splash and various tentacle abilities. He's got like a pretty like wide variety of abilities going on here. He's got, you know, the projectile, which he can shoot, which is very, like, as he says, it's very accurate. It's been blocked many times, which is the meme. But
I think it also gives him the ability to lay eggs. Apparently.
Yes, as is shown in the famous moment from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Overall, very good design. Pretty odd set of abilities, like tentacles going in and possessing people and shooting emeralds. Like, that's not like a coherent theme to it, but it's cool in its uniqueness, I guess. But at the same time, it could have had like a more coherent moveset, I think, if we're going with that term.
I think it's really impressive for being like the third stand we see, or like the fourth stand we see, for how interesting it is. Like, in the beginning, even though you got some of these other ones that are just punch ghosts, he does something cool with making this more ranged, and more like a snake, which I always like.
Yeah,
I just think really cool. It fits as one of the main like Stardust Crusaders stands.
I would put it bottom of B. That's where I think it belongs.
I put it top of B, but regardless, B tier.
For now, I'll compromise and put it in the middle of B, above.
Put it in the middle. I think it's better than Hangman.
The Tomb. Okay, I'll put it in there for now, and we'll see later. Next up we have High Priestess, which, this is the one where, this is also a pretty. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a vague ability. It's just like generally to transform into different minerals. I think is the description.
Yeah.
And which essentially is just complete shape shifting into hard materials. Which
I do like it being like in the people's mouth or whatever.
Yes, like it turned into there's a couple cool moments.
It's kind of like Talking Head in Part 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah, where it like goes into the, yeah. And then like it grows really big at the end. That's a
I think something that hurts it though is like you literally never get to know the stand user, which I think the stand user always is like it's a tandem thing, you know? And so when Midler literally just gets knocked out, and like in the manga, there's literally not even a design for her. Araki didn't make a design for her until Heritage for the Future. It's like, but it is the last arc before Egypt. The last fight really, before they get on shore. And I think the whole thing of them being in submarine is really cool. I know we're not necessarily talking about the arc, but that stand would not work as cool.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the whole like they're surrounded by under the ocean. It adds a level of like depth to it.
Yeah. Submarine depth. Visually, I think the design isn't very good. I think it's of course it's
one of the worst.
But it's just the face really for most of it.
It's so boring.
It's not very good. I would put High Priestess in C tier.
Yeah,
that's
I can agree.
Say. You Midler, you are mid. Laugh track, play now.
Midler.
There we go. All right. Next up, we have Horus. Very memorable encounter for me.
Love it.
Just ice. Very cool. Again, good. Another pun. It's so easy to make puns with.
It's so cool that Pet Shop is a user.
Yes.
And it's just like a pet versus pet battle.
Yeah, the freaking animal fight.
Yeah.
I think it
JoJo
also
League of Super Pets.
League of Super Pets. I also think it works well specifically in the fight against Iggy because both of their stands have like kind of shape-shifting functionality to it, in which
it's like sand versus ice
and manipulating ice, and they clash against each other, and it's like, oh, who's stronger? So it really depends on Pet Shop's like and Iggy's like strategies. Basically,
also,
you go first.
I have to mention that Pet Shop in Heritage for the Future
is like busted.
Insane. I have to just mention that. I love this. The fight, everything. It's super unique, and it looks like Ridley. So
yeah, it does.
Bonus points.
Basically, stands that have like super simple abilities like this. Usually, it all depends on what Araki's able to come up with. and I think he did a very good job with this arc. So I think the stand ended up leaving a lasting impression on me, at least. Yeah, I think it's very cool.
Very top of A, honestly, over Geb.
Over Geb? You know what? Yeah, thinking about it, I think I'd agree.
Yeah.
Top of A.
Also, Pet Shop is so freaking menacing. Like, just the way it is, like, when they hire the private investigator, and the private investigator's like, wow, that was easy, I found the mansion, and then he instantly just gets murked.
Yeah, it's so good. With like the giant ice block or whatever, he just oh my god, yeah. Next up we have Judgment.
I argue that Judgment is probably the most underrated stand in part 3.
I just
love
agree with you because
Judgment.
I do think it's like just pretty okay, but I know you really like Judgment.
I loved that arc, man. It was so cool to be having like the different wishes and stuff, and you juxtapose it with like Avdol being already alive, but you don't like know that yet. But you have them like revive Avdol, and you have them revive Polnareff's sister. It's just so cool to me. It's such a unique idea to have it be wishes. I love it.
It's just wishes, but he makes them out of like dirt or whatever.
Polnareff's like my favorite JoJo character, so having him have this like really like personal arc, it's so good.
I just think ability-wise, all it does is summon minions, basically. It's kind of...
Yeah, but having it play on like the wants and like needs of the person like asking the wishes and stuff, that I think elevates it to A tier for me.
I think Judgment's like a B tier. That's what I think, at least. If you want, I could put it at top of B and just see.
I think
how
top of B, but I will argue that like that would be because I love Judgment.
I get what you're saying.
Also, how they at the end where they have Avdol and Polnareff peeing on
yes,
the user.
Yeah, very good. What's his name? I don't know. There's so many
Cameo.
Cameo. Ah, yes, classic.
That part is just gotta mention how funny it is.
It is a very funny segment after such a pretty dramatic like arc for Polnareff or whatever.
Yeah,
pretty lighthearted ending. All right, next up we have Justice. This is like in my brain I've always thought of Justice as like kind of a mini boss because it's Enya. It's Enya, and she's always been like throughout like shown throughout the beginning part. And so like this is like the build up to the fight, especially is like when they're going through the town and they're seeing everyone being like freaks or whatever. And of course there's a dead dog in the beginning of it.
Yes, I love it being like a ghost town.
Yeah, a literal ghost town. Yeah, except it's just made out of fog, apparently. I think I will say though, again, this doesn't affect my opinion of the stand itself, but I think Star Platinum breathing in really hard is kind of dumb as like the final way to beat the stand is just if you inhale all the stand, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, really? That's it? That's the way you defeat it? I think if Justice were to be done again, I think he would have definitely had an actual like reason to defeat it. Some weird like pseudoscience thing he made up or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Araki's not actually like over the phase of just everyone has ass poles. He's just better at hiding it often.
Exactly.
Which is not that's not a bad thing. That's good. That's good writing. Entertaining too. But
I
overall,
think bottom of B tier.
I don't think it's like anything like I don't think it's like mid. I just think it's like
it's just a cool problem for the entire cast to have to deal with.
Yeah. Next is Kunum, I think is the pronunciation. Yeah. Freaking Oingo's transfer, like he shifts his face.
Plastic Man, basically.
It's all right. It's like it's for the arc. All it is just to explain. It's just to do the gag where you think Jotaro is gonna die because it's predicted, but actually, he gets his face blown up. That's pretty much the only functionality.
I think it's mainly just it's a very funny part. It relies on the arc, and he only uses it to like change into Jotaro, I believe.
He uses it at the beginning when he's the waiter or whatever.
Or like one more time.
Yeah. But that's about it.
But I think this would be one where if he redid it in a new part with just like very different, or not very different. I meant if he did it again slightly different, it could be really cool as like a Joe Bro stand where it's used constantly.
Oh yeah,
but it isn't really used that much.
With more opportunities to show off its like potential, I think it would have done better. But I think it's serviceable. I'd give it bottom of C. That's what I would say.
I would put it above Middler's stand. I definitely put it above that.
I'll say sure. I'd have to think about it more, but there's no reason like to. No, it's close enough to where it's like I'm not gonna like argue like how dare you say that about High Priestess.
Ugh. High Priestess defenders, comment below.
Please comment your favorite Middler moment. Okay, we got the Lovers.
Lovers, another very underrated stand.
Yes, Lover. I agree with that.
I don't see people talking about it, but that fight, it mixes the tenseness and it's hilarious.
People always talk about the 3-page aura rush, but they never actually talk about the rest of the arc, which I think is done very well. Good. It's whenever I've re-gone through part 3, it's a kind of a point where I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, I wanna see this. The creativity of it being like, oh, it's super small, and so they have to shrink their stands to go inside of it, which it pushes the boundaries of what stands as a whole can do, but not enough to where it's like confusing as to why they don't do it that much later, because shrinking your stand isn't that useful for like 99.9%.
Yeah, you wouldn't really do it that much.
So it makes sense. It doesn't feel like a. People always say it's a forgotten ability, and while of course he has never done it again, it's like there's nothing to ever contradict it, and so I think it's just a fun one-off. They needed to do this for this one specific ability. Ooh,
love how it's used on Jotaro, and he has to like wash the shoes, and like kneel over the river.
It's so like good. Painful to watch because Jotaro is like this like stoic kind of character. It's like I understand his pain.
It's one of the biggest like character moments for Jotaro because in part 3 he's kind of more like generic. And it's just so great at the end when you get the release of him just going insane on him.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think Lovers is like top of B tier.
I'll agree with that. I'll put him at top of
It's a very, very cool ability.
I'll to keep with my compromise with you, I'll put him underneath Judgment. So he'll be second to top of B tier.
Yeah.
Magician's Red, I think, is the definition of a mid stand. It's like
it's so it's literally a punch ghost. It's so boring.
Stand essentially. It's just he has fire.
Like, it's powerful, but like the design is
things
okay.
Where it's like he does a couple things where it's like, oh, I store the fire in the ground as like the Ankh symbol and I shoot it out. This is a freaking a crossfire hurricane or whatever. And
it's not even like later stands where you have like a music reference that is interesting or something. It's just Magician's Red, bro.
It's the first tarot card. Yeah. Later on, there's a what is it? It's the moment when they enter Dio's mansion, and suddenly Avdol is just like, I'm gonna create this fire like detector that detects like heat signatures or whatever, or like life or something. It's like, why didn't you use that ever before? What do you what and also how can you use this? What does this mean? It's a bit too just generic.
Also doesn't get to use it at all in the final battle because he dies before the final battle.
Right before. Magician's Red is used in like the very beginning, like the first ever stand fight between Star Platinum and Magician, which lasts 5 seconds. It's then used against Silver. It's used against Silver Chariot, and then like Bastet, and then
It's like intermittently, like a tiny bit.
Generic sometimes uses the fire, but that's
It's so boring.
yeah. That's he doesn't.
It's like bottom of C tier for me.
Yeah, that's I'm putting him at bottom of C tier. I don't think there's anything to where I think design wise it's pretty iconic and cool enough to not put it within a D or an F tier, but
It's definitely the
boring.
worst stand of someone in like the main group for the part
we've ever had in any part.
we've
think.
ever had. And yeah.
Any main cast group, it's the worst one. Next up we have the worst. We have the worst Darby stand
Version.
which is literally just whatever the other one was called, but without the mind reading ability. And it's
and also
Osiris.
just a more boring version of the dolls, which is just the poker chips.
Aesthetically, for being a poker player, having the souls be chips is cool, but having the creepiness factor of the dolls being like twitching and everything, and they actually like they're
Sentience and stuff.
Yeah, they're like doll versions of the characters instead of just having the face on the token. I think there's just a better version of it, and design wise, it's also worse. I think there's a big divide, honestly. There's a lot more. It has a lot more stand charm to.
Again, I love this arc, but as the stand itself.
I'm just talking about the stand itself. It could have just been better.
Funny enough, this is also, as of this recording, the most recent stand in the most recent chapter of Crazy Diamond.
That's
like
true.
a new appearance,
Yeah.
which is fun. I like seeing it there against Dio.
Yeah.
So
And if you haven't read Crazy Diamond, but you're a fan of Part 3, and especially Part 4 too, mostly if you're a fan of Part 3,
mostly
and you
Part
haven't read
3,
Crazy
the minor
Diamond,
antagonist.
go read Crazy Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak. Okay, it's you'll find it's a ton of fun. Anyway, so
I think probably middle of C.
I would argue for D just based on the fact that there is a straight up better version in
But it
every
was first
single
though.
way.
If this was the second brother, I think I'd agree. But having it be the first brother, I think it has that novelty factor though.
Okay, I'll put it bottom of C then. Okay.
We can agree bottom of C.
Okay, next we have, I believe this is Set.
Alessi.
Not a very good character, very awkward section of the story. Ability
Maybe
wise,
if this wasn't used by a complete creep, I think it would be more interesting.
I think it would be more, yeah.
And you also, again, with the comedy part, you get one of the funniest parts where he makes Jotaro a kid and he's like, ha ha, how are you gonna beat me now? And then Jotaro's just like beats him up as a kid. It's perfect.
The famous thing of the famous like mentioned Lost Opportunity is not using this on old Joseph to bring a young Joseph.
I know.
Cameo,
It literally, what it should have been is it should have been the beginning of the arc is him making Joseph into young Joseph and all of the rest of the Stardust Crusaders kids, and then young Joseph and the kids have to then find him and fight him instead of spending 30 minutes of Polnareff in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Guys, I will never understand why he didn't go for the young Joseph route for it.
It's confusing. I think this where do you I'll you say first where you think this belongs. I'm still thinking.
I think the usage, like in terms of how you could use it in different ways, probably right above Magician's Red and C.
I was thinking top of D, honestly. That's what I'm thinking.
I could say top of D too. It's just, oh my god, it's one of those things where the ability is pretty cool, but I hate the arc. It is so bad.
I think it suffers a bit too from which one did I say was too broken? I think it was Emperor. It suffers from Emperor syndrome, where the ability is if you touch his shadow, it rewinds your age by a bunch, but touching it for a millisecond caused him to age down to a baby, and so it feels just like it feels like an impossible stand to against any other character. If you touch the shadow for 2 seconds, you'd be instantly killed. That's not very fun. That's not very.
And again, something like Grateful Dead in Part 5 basically does the inverse of it, but way better, way cooler.
And also, I'd like to bring up a less direct, that Grateful Dead comparison. That's obvious because it's like, oh, it ages you instead of instead of makes you younger. It's like the same kind of theme. I think the better version of this arc is Little Feet, where it makes Narancia like smaller and weaker, which is essentially what this does.
Right.
But it's a more gradual progression, so there's more of like a tense, like, oh, will Narancia be able to get him in time before he's too small to do anything? Instead of this, it's like from off the bat, it's just, oh, he's tiny now.
I think again, one kind of cool thing is that you have the smaller version of the stand too. You have like baby Silver Chariot.
Baby Chariot, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this at top of D. That's what I'm gonna keep it at, to keep it the tiers balanced.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Okay. Next up, the GOAT Silver Chariot. All praise.
I love it.
Silver Chariot. I love this dude. Design wise, he's super cool. He just, his ability is he has a sword, which is it's
and he's
fun.
Super fast.
He goes
it's so
slice,
good.
slice, stab, and I think Silver Chariot's versions of, like, for example, Star Platinum gets like weird abilities like Star Finger, but Silver Chariot's like he shoots out his
armor.
He shoots out his sword. He takes off his armor to become like much faster. Those I think make a lot more sense because they're using already pre-established parts of the stand, like the sword. Like him shooting it off isn't too out of the question.
He also uses it way more often than Starfinger, which people say to this day that Jotaro should have used against Pucci, and it's like
that's dumb.
I'm gonna get into that down that rabbit hole, but Starfinger is not that strong, guys.
Yeah, it was like a last minute resort, which
yeah. For me, it's S tier. I think it's the perfect like summation of what you want as a JoBro stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm putting it at top of S. That's what
Yeah.
I've got so far. All right. Strength. Funny, creepy little monkey. That's the boat is not so little. It's a boat.
It's a boat.
That's the stand. You can move the boat.
F tier. It's a boat. Bottom of F tier.
I'm putting it. I'll put it at bottom of F. There's nothing you can really do about it. I think.
Wow, you can change the boat. Like you can move the boat. Oh my god,
I think
it's
the
so cool.
shock factor of it being the boat is the stand wears off incredibly fast after the reveal, and the rest of the fight is just okay. It's the boat. We get it. Move on, please.
It's not like a unique design for a boat. It's a boat. Who cares?
It is the worst, like, inanimate object integrated stand out of
There is a reason
them.
Rocky does not do, like, a car stand, like, in Part 8 or something anymore. He doesn't do these big things anymore because it doesn't work.
Because the shocking factor of, the boat was the stand the whole time just doesn't really work anymore once you get to way weirder
There's
concepts.
no twist to it either. It's not like the boat can fly or, like, the boat can go underwater, but the user can still breathe or something. Yeah, you can move the boat in any direction.
That's the effect. Also, the monkey's creepy. So let's not give forever.
Again, another arc that is painful in Part 3, like Alessi. That I'm like, I don't like this. Not good.
Not a fan. What I am a fan of is the sun. It's
the goat.
This
goes in Arabia Fats tier.
Add tier Arabia Fats beyond everything else. No, but actually, the sun, I think it works specifically for the gag chapter that it's in. I think its ability is cool enough to be like, oh, it's a constant like wave of heat or whatever that's like inescapable, but the solution in which they just have to get rid of the user and then they can't do anything. That's a fun way to counteract the seemingly like super powerful stand ability. So I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think it's anything. I'd give it like bottom of B. I don't think it deserves anything higher than that, but
personally, I love how the user is integrated into it. Like how they find it and then they just like destroy him, and he's like sitting in a little chair.
He has his air conditioning and everything.
Yeah, his air conditioning. And I think it works well as this is one of those things where Rocky was like, what is the natural enemy if someone was walking through a desert? The sun, because of how hot it is. So he's like, what if I made that into a stand? And it's just a cool
thing. And it helps that
thing.
There's the tarot card, the sun. So it's pretty obvious what to do. Yeah.
I think probably bottom.
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't have a unique.
I say bottom of B. That's what I said.
I think C tier. I can't. I mean.
Okay. I'll put it in C.
Oh, like over Whole Horseman.
That's
no.
true. That's true. No, I missed Emperor. You're right. I'll put it below Emperor, above Kunum. All right. Up next is tenor sax.
Another one. S tier.
Put it in Kenny G tier. Put it in Billie Jean tier. Yeah. There. Okay.
F tier.
F tier. I think genuinely above.
Top of F tier.
I think top of F tier, just because it at least it makes Dio's mansion seem like more mysterious and cool and everything. It's giving an in-universe like haunted mansion like effect, which I think is cool.
Also, making one of Dio's like minions be just a complete incompetent and just gets destroyed immediately, it adds realism to that part of the story where you're like, the Stardust Crusaders are so strong at this point that you're like, they could beat. You have to keep making stronger and stronger characters. So having one that's just completely out of the league here, and he just gets demolished. I love it.
Also,
but still,
the first and pretty much only stand that doesn't go with a theme in its name. Basically, it doesn't. It's not one of the tarot cards. It's not a song reference. It's just the instrument. It's not the Egyptian gods. Even Cream.
This is when he was starting to experiment with the music stands.
Yeah. So,
and then now he's gotten into a groove where it's pretty much always a song or an album.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it something else.
Yeah, I don't think our artists is like individual like artist names are basically non-existent, stuff like that. He's gone into like a rhythm essentially. But yeah, I don't think it deserves anything above it. Next up, we have my personal favorite, The World. I think this is top of S. I'm putting it top of S, and not a single person in the entire universe.
Easiest S tier I made in my life in this. It's come on, man.
So impeccably iconic at this point.
Literally the second most iconic stand after Star Platinum.
Literally, like, I knew about The World before going into it, which sucks because it would be the arc.
The whole mystery is about time travel, or not time travel, time stop.
The time stop is such a huge pop culture and like meme at this point that it kind of sucks that it's
the
very
sound
rare
effect
to have
is
someone...
like ingrained in my head.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so
everything.
Good.
It's the lead up to it. It's so cool.
The final arc of Stardust Crusaders, the final arc of Stardust Crusaders is so incredibly good, and having the time stop ability, which is so incredibly powerful, really like it feels like a finale. It feels like everything has been culminating to this moment, and The World is such the perfect like counter to Star Platinum, because up to this point Star Platinum could just beat anything he ever wants to as long as he gets close, and The World is the first one that actually like puts a stop to it, besides like Lovers, which was conditional, and again then he just did the same thing. But this is like it's just, there's so many elements of The World that make it.
It's the lead up more than anything. This is one of those things where part one, like people that say they want to skip part one, I'm like, but you don't get the Dio lead up. Why would you care about Dio if you skip part one?
The end of part 3 is the build up of everything, not even just part 3. It's the build up from the beginning of part 1, and it goes so hard. The generations and everything. Oh my god, it's so good. Also, funny, he looks like a diver because Dio wrote the song.
Holy diver. Yes.
You've been down too long in the midnight sea. I've heard like a kind of like a fan theory that The World's ability kind of developed from Dio's like his time spent in like 100 years underwater. It felt like time was like slowing down to like a stop, basically, and so it really developed into this time stop ability.
And because this is Dio Stan, I will just mention very quickly, even though it's not on the list, I do think it is cool how he has Jonathan Stan too.
Oh yeah,
with the body for a little bit, even though he only uses it one time. The whole Dio's head on Jonathan's body is such a cool element to it.
It also makes it even more really like reasonable to presume that Jotaro has the same abilities as The World, because if Dio having The World and essentially Hermit Purple, and it kind of like if his descendants, quote unquote, because he has Jonathan's body, if his descendants gained those same abilities, it makes sense. Because, Joseph has her role, and Jotaro has the world. So, I've never seen Star Platinum be able to stop time as an ass-pull. I think people are famous.
Oh, no, it's not. No.
I have never thought that. I always thought it was like,
I
this
think
makes sense.
maybe it needs a little more lead up, but for me, it always made sense thematically, and it's earned in the arc. It's not like he instantly figures it out. You have that lengthy period of him slowly getting the grips with it.
He builds up the resistance to Dio's time stop, and then he's finally able to do it just one time for himself, and that's the one that counts. So yeah, I will always love the world. Very good, very cool. Top of S. Next we have Toth, I believe is the name. Oingo Boingo book. The Oingo Boingo Brothers Adventures, as is the title, I believe. Used in 2 distinct arcs, which is very rare. Of course, Emperor was also there, but Emperor wasn't really the focus of that.
Arcs, and because we're not going to be doing a Crazy Diamond one of these, because it's almost always, it pretty much only reuses stands besides Pet Sounds, that is also very crucial to Crazy Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak, too.
Yes. The fact that it like sticks around for so long is really cool. And there's so many diverse ways you can use it, because its future predicting is always like 100%, but it's kind of like a vague 100%. It's like the events will happen, but you're not sure how to like interpret those events. It can get really creative.
Also, because I want to leave this video to just be only part 3 spoilers. All I'm gonna say is that I like how it is referenced back later.
Yes, if you know what we're talking about, you should definitely know, basically. So
that's a minor thing, but this is like A tier for me, easy. I like it more than Geb. I think it's really cool how it uses
more than Geb. I don't think it's better than
manga.
Geb. I'd put it above.
Definitely better than Anubis.
I think it's better. I think it's worse than Anubis. No, Anubis is cool.
I just think the future prediction's so cool.
Yeah, but it's mostly used for just gags. I think it could have been used to do much cooler things besides just, the characters blow up, and then that's about it. I think it's used much more effectively in Crazy Diamond. I think it's used as like the main plot tool. But I think
I'm fighting for A tier for this.
I'm keeping it in A tier. Yes, I'm just not putting it above Anubis.
Got it.
Okay, next up we have the Tower of Grey.
Tower. It's a stand in part 3.
It's a beetle, and it flies around, and it has a long. I believe its ability is that it has a long tongue. I think it bites you.
Thank God that this stand fight takes place in an interesting location, or else this would probably be like the most forgettable one. But having it on a plane is really cool.
I think below Dark Blue Moon, because at least Dark Blue Moon is like you can do cool water stuff. It's just
I agree. Dark Blue Moon has a way better design too.
It's just a bug that flies around, but all stands can fly. Except for,
Dark Blue Moon, like kind of the best stand of all time.
Kind of peak, actually. I'm putting it above Strength though, because Strength is still.
Strength's so boring.
So stupid.
At least it's a unique design.
Yeah. Strength. I didn't even mention it when we were talking about Strength. Strength is literally just a boat. It's not even a cool looking boat. It's just a boat.
Yeah.
If it was a cool looking boat, I could have bumped it up a tiny bit. But no, it's nothing. All right. Speaking of Strength, Wheel of Fortune, the much better done Strength, in my opinion. I think it's car. It's a stand car, but it's a cool looking stand car, and it can climb up walls and stuff. It's like an advanced car. It's like
I like how it's introduced. I like how it's introduced in the arc, where it's like the driver that they're getting really pissed with. Yeah, I find that hilarious, and I like how Araki kind of a tiny bit reused this concept later for the Rohan chapter. With the driver,
with the angry driver or whatever.
Tiny bit, but they reminded me of that. And I just love the setup for it. And you got that amazing part at the end where Jotaro goes on fire.
Mm-hmm. And then he digs into the ground. And then there's this really like it doesn't happen a lot. Of like a fourth wall breaking moment where Wheel of Fortune's user or whatever says like, "I win. Part 3 is over." That's like his line. That's like his direct line. And then Jotaro goes, "Well, then who would replace me, the main character?"
Yeah.
And then he's alive. And he's like, "What? And then he beats him up. And it turns out the guy inside the car was like a little tiny dude. It was just his arm that was buff. So he looks really funny.
I think like bottom of C.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, bottom of C. I'd also like to mention, I should probably mention this earlier, but this is one of the many stand part 3s like influenced off of like horror movies. What's the movie where the car is the movie?
Oh my god,
Christine, yes. Christine is Wheel of Fortune. We have Child's Play is like Ebony Devil. We have what is it? Death 13's like Nightmare on Elm Street. There are plenty of horror movie influences in like early part 3. And this is one of the more obvious ones. So that's fun. Bottom of C. Yellow Temperance, which is just the better version of Kunum. I'm just realizing that now. We had 2 like disguised self stands, except this one actually has more functionality.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, I think it's just interesting because it's obviously this is where the Kakyoin cherry gif, the classic, one of the first things I ever saw of JoJo.
Same. Everyone knows that. Yeah.
I just find that funny because you're the whole arc. You're like, is Kakyoin evil? Like, is he gonna go against everyone? No, it's good. I like the fight on the gondolas or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Also, I like how Jotaro uses the Joestar secret technique to run away that he learned.
Yes.
Learned from Joseph. I'd put it above Sun, below Emperor, which is like top of C.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
And this one is based heavily off of The Blob, which is another horror movie. So there we go. And we have reached the final, most iconic stand of pretty much the entire series.
Definitely Platinum. The entire series.
I was just trying to like think in my mind, do people like know the world more? But probably not, because there's more Star Platinum.
Star Platinum's in way more parts.
People probably know about Dio more than Star Platinum though, not the world itself. But
yeah.
Star Platinum, the stand, is more iconic than the world. I'm somewhere in S tier, but I have to think of where. That's my consensus.
For me personally, cool. below Silver Chariot. For me.
I'll put it at I'm gonna put him at the bottom of S tier, just because it is by definition the punchiest punch ghost of all time, and we complain about that a lot. But I think if you're gonna make a punch ghost, it damn better well be a good punch ghost, and Star Platinum is a good punch ghost.
You also get to see time stop across part 3, 4, and 6.
Mm-hmm. You get to see it evolve beyond just part 3, which is really cool.
Part 4 specifically is the usage is like great, and the end of part 6.
End of part 6 goes crazy, man. Overall, Star Platinum is just really, really good. I like how his design kind of like evolves over the series in terms of he just changed the design, and also his art style as a whole changed. So you get to see a lot of Star Platinum. Star Platinum is by far the stand we've seen the most out of the entire series. So there's a lot of bias towards it going in S tier, but it's not undeserved bias.
Iconic. It's just such a good design.
Absolutely wonderful. That is every single stand ranked. Man, there's a lot of these. I think this turned out pretty even from top to bottom.
Totally, and I know for this one, this is gonna be the easiest part to agree with, just because there's a lot of forgettable stands. Part 4 and 5, I think, are gonna be the toughest by far. Part 5 specifically, I think.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have a lot of different opinions on it.
There is so many. I'm gonna for later parts. I'm gonna have to do like 2 A tiers in order for it to fit in with the
or
rest.
Like an S plus.
Like divide them up. It's too hard. There's not many like mid stands later, and this by far has like the worst set of stands in the series. They get so much better later on. But even in part 3 at the very beginning, we get so many cool S tier stands like the ones we have here. Very good start for stands overall.
So we're gonna end up doing all of these parts 3 through 8, or now we have part 3 done, but 4 through 8 at least. So comment below what your favorite stand for part 3 is. I want to see all of you Tower of Grey defenders and Forever defenders in the chat. I want to know if there's someone out there where Forever is your favorite stand in the series.
Forever is the name of the monkey, not the stand. God damn it! How dare you've insulted them?
It's because Forever would have been a more interesting name. But Tower of Grey defenders. Then
if there's one strength defender, it's me. If there's no strength defenders, I'm dead. All right, thank you everyone for watching. This is JoJo's Overdrive signing off.
Shake it like it's heat. Hold the drive. Coming through now. Coming through now. Coming through. Watch where you're going. Hold the drive. Let the downside up to top notch. What I'm here to do. Hot top.